Hey everyone, this is your boy Rolling Cross, aka Cross, the Christian Cyclist, and today we're here with my friend Mark. He's a bike mechanic, and we're going to kind of talk about some things. I had some work done on my bike. Most of you are familiar with Archangel, my Cervelo, and we had a group set change. And I wanted to get Mark's perspective on changing, or why some people would change a group set out, some pros and cons to changing a group set out, and just some advice. If you're thinking about changing your entire group set, what scenario would really warrant you to do such a thing? So stay tuned, and we're gonna get right into it, and we'll talk about group set change. All right, so Mark, if you would, just share with us, I know you did some work on Archangel. You want to tell everybody what exactly you did?
An old Ultegra up to the new version of Ultegra that is cable actuated.
Okay.
So the next step would be DI2, and we'll get involved in that when you get ready to get involved in that.
Okay, so walk us through this.
So most people would want to change a group set out because their frame is still doing great, just like the Cervelo Archangel. So to freshen up the bike, changing out a group set is a fantastic way to go.
Okay.
So, especially with the age that I received the group set from, is that the rear derailleur, which is here, or it's going to be called the rear mech, depending on where you are in the world, this actually is operated by a spring.
Okay.
Springs will wear out. So once these start wearing out, shifting is not as crisp, it lags, it takes a long time to go into the next gear.
Okay.
So refreshing that rear derailleur is a great starting point.
Okay.
Now here's where kind of the catch is. You got to make sure that the amount of gears equals the amount of gears in the cassette.
Okay.
Okay, so you went from a 10 speed, now you got an 11 speed. So with the newer group set, you do get a lot more accoutrements with it.
Okay.
You get a little bit better shifting action. Now, if we really want to deep dive into this is actually a shadow platform.
Okay.
So it's going to be better and less chance of chain drop if you run into rough roads.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So along with that, we also replace the chain, because when you go into more gears, the gear spacing on the cassette gets a little bit smaller. So you actually have to get a little bit thinner chain. Then, my favorite part is right up here, changing out the crank. Sorry, I have to put it in the correct position for the glamour shot. Changing out the crank is actually one of the biggest places that you can save weight.
Okay.
Okay. As you move up from starting at Ultegra, moving up to 105, moving up to Ultegra, moving up to Durace, it actually drops weight.
Okay.
And depending on where you're from, it's grams.
Okay.
But it's a great way to start. You kept the same gear teeth, so the gear ratios are going to be the same, except with the increase in the cassette, we got you a bigger back end here.
Okay.
You're going to be able to climb a lot more hills.
Oh, I'm loving that already. We can stop the interview right now.
And then as we move up, you got the new front mech, and again, going with the whole, if you go from a 10 speed to an 11 speed, you do have to get a new front mech.
Okay.
So the front mech will actually be a little bit thinner in order to accommodate the chain.
Okay.
The bigger front mech actually will not let the chain throw from the small ring up to the big ring. Okay. Okay. And then as we move up, going from a 10 speed to an 11 speed, you do have to get the new shifters.
Okay.
Okay. And here's where you get a lot of cool things with the shifters. You get a lot more aero shifter.
Okay.
Which hard to really see, but these are actually thinner. A lot more contact space.
Okay.
Right here.
Yeah, I see that.
To
That looks good.
Yeah. In order for that the palm fatigue.
That's my favorite position too. I'm rarely in my drops.
Down here?
Yeah, I really hug the back of that shifter. So seeing that and the angle that it's at looks fantastic. Like it's gonna be perfect.
And that's the thing, just kind of since you brought that up, best thing to do is if you are looking at your handlebars and you have a newer bike, and a whole different story about bikes from the 80s and the 70s.
Okay.
We won't talk about that. We'll talk about new bikes. So your placement of your shifter brake is actually should be nice, smooth transition from the top of the handlebars straight to the hood. Okay.
And why does that make so much difference? Like, why is that a big deal?
Because it's easier for you to transfer over and get on top of the hoods. And on top of it, because of the way handlebars are designed now, they're not as deep of a drop.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
And then to go along with that, you have increased your stopping power with the new Ultegra brakes. Much better braking systems, got a lot beefier spring, and it's a dual pivot versus a single pivot.
Okay.
So a little bit harder to explain.
So when you say dual pivot, and this thing going crazy, so forgive the camera. When you say dual pivot versus a single pivot, what does that mean?
Okay, so come on in. Let me show you. So most of the time with the older brakes, there would be, the cable comes through, and you would only have one side would actually kind of squeeze it all together. Now, with this one in particular, it's got a nice big spring here, nice big spring here.
Okay.
So you actually increase that braking power, which is going to be a warning for you because now you're going into a heavier braking power. Yeah. So you don't have to hit the brakes as hard.
Don't throw yourself over the bike.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me ask you, okay, so like for instance, I can definitely see the benefit of the new hood with this setup. If you're racing, that's paramount.
Absolutely, 100%.
You know, if you're racing, that's got to be a big deal. I'm not a racer, but yet that transition just makes you feel better on the bike. You know,
going from a tough climb into a downhill where you want to get a little bit more aero, a lot easier transition from the top to the hoods.
Okay, and now with the gear setup here, so explain exactly when I changed gears. What was the gears that I changed from? That you changed the bike from?
Basically a straight block 1125.
Okay.
Up to now a 1234.
A 1234.
Yeah.
And so what's the benefits of that and the cons of that? If someone's looking to do that, give me, if you can, a benefit and some pros and cons to it.
Okay. So the benefit, and I'll put myself in there, the benefit for me is that I am getting older.
Okay.
So I can't turn a really heavy gear as much as I used to.
Okay.
So having the nice, bigger, wider range in order to get up hills is the best way to go.
Okay.
But yet you can still have a small enough gear to where you can actually crank out a sprint easily.
Okay.
Okay. Now the cons are going back to what you were saying with racing.
Okay.
Now for this area in particular, this big giant dinner plate is kind of useless for racers.
Okay.
Because it's mainly flat out here.
Okay.
So they're looking to maintain a bigger speed. So going to that old 25 or even a 28 is where they're going to max out.
Okay. Okay. So from the block, what I had before, did I lose anything on my big gears at all?
You lost nothing.
And with that in mind, here's why I went with that setup. So the 5236 with the bigger cassette on the back, the 1136 versus that 1125 block, that straight block that I had before. When I hit 25 on a compact, you run out of gears. That's it. I'm done, right? So, and usually I can get up any hill at that, but the key is I don't want to have to jump down to the 34. I would like to stay on the 50 and reach through all my gears, not having to jump down onto my 34, because as you know, if you're riding and you get into a hill and you got to jump down off your big crank to your smaller crank, that's a huge difference, and you become inefficient. Your cadence is thrown off. It becomes you have to adjust, and most times you're trying to find the right gear in order to maintain that cadence that you had before. So with the new setup, with the new 52, the semi-compact, the 5236, I can stay in the 52, and because the cassette now goes from 11 to 36, I have I have a huge range of small gears that now I can make that climb without having to jump off my 52. And I can still grind because my 50 allowed me, and that 5011 allowed me to really, I was decent. I could get the speeds that I'm comfortable with, 25, 26, 27 miles an hour. Now I got the 5211, I can still grind, and when I hit the hill. And here's the second reason I like it. The second reason is that on your recovery, a lot of guys got multiple bikes, they changing out cassettes. Well, I only have one bike that I like to ride, my Cervelo Archangel. And so on my recovery day, I want to have a range of gears that if I really want to have a light day, no matter if I hit a hill, don't hit a hill, I want to have the range of gears to do that. And I think the semi-compact, along with the 1136 cassette on the back, will give me just that. So that's the reason why. Let's get back to it.
Here.
Okay.
Let me kind of rewind a little bit. The one thing I did forget to talk about on the crank, and this is paramount for anybody that's going to change a crank,
okay,
make sure you get the proper bottom bracket.
Okay.
This is kind of where you and I were having that discussion.
Okay.
Because Cervelo in particular, since we have a Cervelo bike, I'll explain what the bottom bracket is. Now, Cervelo has their own proprietary, thank you. I'm in radio. Their own proprietary bottom bracket. It is called a BB Right.
Okay.
Now, BB Rights are not compatible with Shimano.
Okay.
You do have to get adapters.
Okay.
Which are spacers that you can actually leave the old bottom bracket in, get the adapters, which with the spacers,
okay,
put them on, put the bottom bracket on, and you're good to go.
Okay. Okay. So that's a Cervelo.
That is
brand.
A Cervelo thing.
Okay.
And it's something with your viewers, and I'll spout off me, talk to Crank Revolution. I'll shout out my mechanic TC, who's
okay,
my mechanic at our shop.
Okay.
If you want to talk bottom brackets, that's about 2 hours to talk.
But if you're looking to change out a group set like that, depending on the brand of the bike, that's something you need to be cautious aware of.
Do talk to, like we talked on the phone via text message, do talk to your mechanic at your local bike shop.
All right, guys. So you heard it from Mark, infamous bike mechanic here in Aurora. We will give you information. So if you're looking for a great bike mechanic, someone that a friend of mine referred me to and has been terrific and knows his stuff, Mark, where are you located? How can people get a hold of you?
I'm in Aurora. If you want to reach out to me, I'm 630-253-6299. Reach out to me via text message, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Or if you're up in the Hoffman Estates area or Schaumburg area, reach out to me also at Crank Revolution.
All right. Well, you heard it from Mark. The information will be on the screen. This is your boy, Cross, the Rolling Cross Christian Cyclist, and I'll see you next time.